Now we review. Welcome to Derry, Season 1, Episode 2. The Thing in the Dark. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I have seen the second episode of Welcome to Derry, and it seems like we're flushing out a group of characters that are all female. Yeah. The events of the end of the previous episode are canon. They give you a fake out in the beginning, but you learn later that it was not a dream. It really happened. Those kids are dead. And, yeah. They're trying to blame it on the girl whose dad works at the movie theater. They're trying to blame it on him. And there's a lot of them pressing law enforcement to blame it on that guy, even though nobody believes, or even though law enforcement at least doesn't believe it's him, because it's not. We all know it's not him. We know it's Pennywise. Okay, I think you get your first look at a recognizable Pennywise in this episode, and the body horror of this is particularly solid. For what it is, the body horror here is particularly solid. I will also say that the secondary plot involving the Air Force Base, it begins to heat up. Okay, we find out more about what's going on there and who these people are and what they're doing, and there's a lot of reveals to this episode that make it particularly interesting. Again, body horror appears to be the primary theme of what's going on with the kids. And so far, nothing particularly weird or scary are going on with the adults. You know, Pennywise makes children scary. So there's a lot of that going on. So in all reality, I just don't care about the kids' storyline. It's the grossest, if you want to gross out things. Like, there's the one chick whose dad was apparently cut into pieces. And, that's why she's had mental problems. And, her mom's working and all that. And that's what's going on. Okay, it's the world they live in. But, if you've seen the movies, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, then you kind of know what's up, and you know that because these kids do not appear in the movies, they appear in the past, well, either the kids run away and don't defeat Pennywise, or Pennywise winds up eating them. So, not a lot of mystery there. What happens with the airbase, that is the interesting story here, and we get precious little of it. It's a plot that's developing very slowly. And I mean, one of the problems with this plot is that they mention that the pilot there, he has a brain injury to his amygdala, all right? I actually think you have two amygdalae. The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure in the brain, hence the name, and it's responsible for emotional response. So the injury means that he is less fearful. But I'm pretty sure you have two of them. I mean, I'm not dead sure. I will look it up. But one of the things about, someone with PTSD will have an engorged amygdala. And their engorged amygdala means that they have more of a response, an emotional response to stimuli. That's why if they hear a bang, instantly they hit the floor because, they're hard-tuned for an emotional response. That's what the amygdala does. And yeah, okay, apparently this makes him somebody more suited for the particular for the particular, sorry about that, for the particular mission that he's on. And like, there's this sub thing about a crappy Russian sidearm that people tend to take as a trophy. Americans tend to take as a trophy, and so on and so forth. You know, it's just one of those things. There's a lot of stuff in this episode. Again, I personally don't care for the stuff with the kids. The monster design is pretty cool, and the stuff with the adults being more interesting just isn't happening enough. One of my big problems with this episode, however, is you guys realize that we have a interdimensional being as our villain, and then we have to make racism the secondary villain. You know, Derry is a small town. I wouldn't expect it to have as large an African American community as it does. You know, and those African Americans that are there, I would have expected to be there from the Air Force Base. But just understand something here, guys. The whole concept of there being an Air Force Base with a top secret operation going on right next to Pennywise would imply that they would be finding out what's happening to these kids, because they wouldn't want any news coverage. So, you know, they would have the FBI come in to discreetly address the situation, and they would be putting, you know, millions upon millions of dollars into resolving this. So yeah, that's a little bit of a, well, why is this happening sort of a thing. And I mean, you know, I grant a lot of people like the It series and the It book, and it brings a lot of oomph, you know, but I also think that it's not a story. I mean, yeah, okay, Pennywise has been around a while, and he's had a lot of victims, and he's had a lot of victims that probably escaped. But you know, the options are pretty few in this particular storyline, and I don't know if this TV series is something that should exist. Anyway, so this is kind of middle of the watch list for me, lower middle. If you're into body horror, tick it up to the upper half of your watch list, because body horror is a particularly interesting kind of a thing to some people. But, you know, I mean, I can't say it's great. I can't say it's terrible. I didn't love watching it. I was able to stop and do other things without, you know, being like, oh no, I'm missing it. It's like, you know, that's kind of the measure. So I wasn't glued to my screen. Anyway, just my opinion. Love to hear yours. Comments below. I'm Richard.
Greetings, humanity. I'm Randall the Rat, and I'm here to remind you that, well, you should probably comment, like, and subscribe now. And why? Well, the world isn't all that great, and Random Street Theater here is trying to change it. We do things like have trash removed from the ocean, pay for trees to be planted, and even feed orphans. And you can help. You can comment, like, and subscribe, and it's free. When you think about it, if you don't do those things, well, what are you saying? Are you saying you don't care about the ocean and trees and even orphans? Well, sounds like you're a bad human. And you have a delicious face.